Welcome to NEXTGames NM Hunt Series. Today we'll be taking on a trio of greater birds and a sea monk in the form of Rook, Smurf, Kreutzet, and then we will finish with Charybdis. Now Rook can be accessed by going through Garledge Citadel's first and third banishing gates, and you will require the weighted stone key item that we acquired earlier in the series to pass through them. Now once you exit behind gate 3, you will be in the spawn area of Rook that you see here. Now Rook is a greater bird white mage that will use Benediction sometime during the fight, and who has very high evasion for a mob of level 55. Rook also has access to Massacre Elegy, which is a very potent slow that will effectively double your attack speed and recast timers. Now Horde Lullaby can also be used, which can sleep your trust, so make sure you have Mage Trust out of range to wake all of you up. Now after 20 minutes, Rook will rage, so if you're taking this on at lower levels, you want to be sure to make the best of your time to deplete his 30,000 hit points that Rook has, in addition to whatever he will gain back from Benediction. Now Rook drops the Dryad Staff 12% of the time, which can be useful for boosting your curing potential on White Mage earlier on in the game. Lastly, Rook will spawn 21 to 24 hours after its last time of death. That's about all I have to go over for Rook, so enjoy the rest of this run, and we'll chat at the start of the next NM. Now next we have Smurf. Now you normally have to travel all the way through Crawler's Nest to get to the spawn location, but fortunately there is an easier way. You can use Unity Warp level 125 to Rolandberry Fields to land at D11, right where she spawns. Now Smurf is a warrior greater bird with even more invasion than Rook had, so I recommend accuracy boosting food such as sushi. Now Smurf drops Trotter Boots 10% of the time, which can be very useful to thieves and rangers until higher level movement gear can be acquired. Now they can use the same bard spells that Rook can, and they will use Mighty Strikes sometimes during your fight. Now Smurf also has 50% more hit points than Rook did at 45,000, but will still rage after 20 minutes, so if you're taking this on earlier than level 80, make sure you're doing enough damage to finish in time, especially with all the evasion that's going to be involved here. Now Smurf used to be a 21 to 24 hour spawn just like Rook, but they changed it in 2013 to a 1 to 2 hour respawn time, making camping this much easier than the days of old. That's about all I have to go over on this one. Let's see how the rest of this fight goes. We'll talk on the next NM. Now for our last giant bird, we have Kreutzet, which at level 79 to 80 should be far more of a challenge than the two we have just taken on. But due to Kreutzet only having roughly 10,000 hit points, the fight goes substantially quicker than the others. In fact, the main challenge in this fight isn't the fight itself, but the spawn conditions, as this one only spawns every 9 to 12 hours during wind or gale weather, and if they are not claimed by the time the weather goes away, they will despawn and the 9 to 12 hour timer will restart. Now weather is rather common in the map that Kreutzet spawns on in Cape Terrigan, but it also can at times go many hours without it occurring. So this can be a frustrating one to camp, and I actually didn't end up finally seeing a spawn until I was my current level of 96. So this one fight is done at level 96, but since it goes so fast, I'm showing you two examples of how it goes. Now Kreutzet uses standard greater bird attacks, but if Stormwind goes off, it will quickly be followed by 2 additional Stormwinds. Make sure you bring enough healing trust to cure you through this, and if you're tanking on Ninja, be sure not to recast your shadows until after that 3rd Stormwind goes off, as each will wipe your shadows. Now Kreutzet drops the Sirocco Kukri 33% of the time, which can be used by thieves as a great low delay offhand weapon. Now I ended up getting mine to drop on the 2nd kill, but if you're taking this fight on a lower level, such as level 80, I recommend being careful with how much TP you feed this one, as back-to-back triple Stormwinds can be quite devastating at that level. I also suggest that you try to pull them away from the rest of your trust if at all possible, to reduce the amount of AoE damage your group will be taking from this NM. Now the easiest way I find to get here is to take the Survival Book Warp or Unity Warp to Valley of Sorrows, to be able to quickly zone back into Cape Terrigan right where Kreutzet spawns. Now to camp this NM, I often would just port there to see if wind weather was around. If so, I would check if Kreutzet was up, and if not, simply wait until the weather despawned. Or, if Kreutzet wasn't up, I would just go ahead and leave. Note that Kreutzet can spawn anytime during the wind weather, so make sure you stick around if they don't pop right away to see if they happen to pop later on. Now Charybdis spawns in Sea Serpent Grotto and will be the 4th and final NM we take on today. They are a monk sea monk. Now I find differing reports on the exact respawn times, but in general it seems the respawn window will open 8 to 12 hours after last killed, but it can then take several hours to spawn after that window opens. Now you need to kill the placeholder to give this NM a chance to spawn, and that placeholder is the Devil Manta that spawns both inside this room and just outside the doorway in the hallway. Now they have 30,000 hit points and are level 80. Now Chari will use standard monk attacks, including Maelstrom, which can be very potent and take out your back line, so I suggest you try and pull your trust out of range if possible to deal with this. Now Chari will also look to swing incredibly quickly, as each attack round will consist of between 2 and 6 attacks. This means if you need to recast shadows, you want to be sure to do it in between these attack rounds. Now on the plus side, the main item we are after on this NM, the Joyeuse, drops 100% of the time. Now the Joyeuse is a fun weapon for the jobs that can equip it early in endgame, as it double attacks 45% of the time and inflicts piercing damage instead of slashing. Now the easiest way to get here is to simply use Unity Warp to Sea Serpent Grotto, where you'll be put right on this map that Chari spawns on. Let's see how the rest of our run against Chari goes. Well, that's going to be it for NM Hunt video number 3. I hope you either found that nostalgic or helpful. If you enjoyed this content and your first visit to my channel, please be sure to click the subscribe button under the video and the bell icon next to it to be notified when my future videos are released. Thanks so much for watching, everyone. We'll see you next time. Stay safe and stay healthy out there.